What if the most powerful weapon in the US-China tech war was never a missile, never a tariff, but a gift? Because right now, Beijing believes America just rolled a Trojan horse straight to China's gates. And instead of letting it in, China is preparing to burn it alive. This story isn't about chips. It's about dependence, control, and why China just flipped the table on a strategy Washington thought was unbeatable. In ancient history, Troy didn't fall because it was weak. It fell because it trusted the wrong thing. A wooden horse, framed as peace, disguised as generosity, hiding soldiers inside. Fast forward to 2026, and the battlefield isn't stone walls, it's data centers, AI models, and silicon wafers. The horse this time, advanced USAI chips, and the city. China's entire technological future. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When the US allowed limited advanced chips back into China, it wasn't mercy, it was strategy. But what if China saw the trap before the gates ever opened? On the surface, letting chips like the H200 flow back into China looked irrational. Why arm your biggest rival? The public explanation was revenue. US chipmakers were bleeding. China had gone from nearly the entire market to zero. That's not just lost money, that's lost leverage. And leverage is oxygen in geopolitics. But revenue was only the cover story. The real objective was far more dangerous. Lock-in. Modern AI doesn't just run on chips, it runs on ecosystems, architectures, software stacks. Once developers build on them, leaving becomes almost impossible. CUDA libraries, frameworks, toolchains, entire companies quietly hardwired into one supplier. This is how dominance actually works, not by speed, by dependency. Here's where it gets interesting. The chips being allowed weren't even cutting edge. They were good enough, just powerful enough to build tomorrow's models, but old enough to be replaceable soon. That created a ticking clock. Get China hooked now, cut them off later. And watch everything slow down overnight. No sabotage required, just denial. But here's where most people get this completely wrong. The real danger to China was never backdoors, never kill switches, never secret shutdowns. The real threat was complacency, falling behind while feeling comfortable. And Beijing understood that faster than Washington expected. China looked at the offer and saw the future. Short-term acceleration, long-term captivity. Yes, models would train faster. Yes, companies would scale quicker. But every dollar spent strengthened the very ecosystem designed to outpace them forever. So China said no, not loudly, not officially, but strategically. Instead of buying dependence, Beijing did something far more aggressive. It mobilized its entire financial system, not just subsidies, not just grants. A full-spectrum capital offensive, cheap money, state-backed demand, guaranteed buyers. Rate cuts timed precisely to fuel one industry, domestic AI chips, and the effects were immediate. When a Chinese AI chip firm launched and exploded hundreds of percent almost overnight, investors weren't betting on a company, they were betting on policy. On inevitability, on the government standing behind an industry until it wins. This wasn't speculation. This was coordination. Here's the part most analysts miss. China still has room to stimulate. Inflation is barely alive. Borrowing costs are collapsing. Long-term yields drifting lower. That means capital is cheap, patient, and obedient. When Beijing points, money moves. But the real power isn't just cheap money, it's where that money goes. China already ran this exact strategy before. Electric vehicles, same steps. Flood the sector, crush costs. Dominate manufacturing. Then export the advantage globally. Real estate was allowed to deflate because it no longer mattered. AI chips are the new national champion. Every yuan is now chasing silicon. And here's the multiplier. Money stretches further in China. Labor costs less. Power costs less. Infrastructure costs less. Entire data centers can be built for fractions of US prices. So when China deploys tens of billions, the real impact feels like triple that amount. Which leads to the part that truly terrifies Washington. America is winning, but it's winning expensively. Debt-funded expansion, sky-high power costs. Grid limitations, data centers competing with cities for electricity. The AI boom isn't limited by ideas, it's limited by energy. And energy is the silent choke point. US AI isn't a collection of independent companies, it's a web. One slowdown cascades. If revenue shrinks, if borrowing tightens, one giant stumbles, the funding map contracts. And China exiting the ecosystem accelerates that stress. But here's the brutal truth. If the US achieves true general AI first, the game ends. Everything else becomes irrelevant. Control flows instantly. Adoption becomes mandatory. But that outcome requires time, money, power, and stability, all things under pressure. The longer the race lasts, the more the balance tilts. Now zoom out. Why does semiconductor independence really matter? Because chips aren't just tools, they're leverage. Affordable chips priced in local currency don't just power servers. They rewire trade. They weaken dollar dominance. They create alternatives the world can actually afford. This is the quiet endgame no one wants to say out loud. China doesn't want the Trojan horse inside its walls. It wants the blueprint, the factory, the supply chain, the pricing power. Because once that exists, the horse doesn't need to be accepted. It gets burned in front of the gates as a warning. So the real question isn't whether China can resist US chips. It's whether America can win the race before China finishes building a system that no longer needs them. And here's what most people still don't see. The next battlefield isn't chips, it's power, water, and geography. That's what we're breaking down next. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like the video, share it with others who follow global tech and geopolitics, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next.